It's midday. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Citi Prime News, which is live from our studios at number 11 Dr. Morton Loop in Adabraka, Accra. It's also live on all our partner stations across the country. The news is also live across the globe on citynewsroom.com, Citi 97.3 FM on Facebook, and CityTube on YouTube. I am Wilma Obubi Sakoman, and this afternoon I'm here with
Kweku Ediamansa.
Coming up in the next 1 hour, NDC supporters in Assin North hit the streets in jubilation following victory of James Jachikwason in the just ended by-elections.
It's giving the government, Bawumia Ekufuado government, a very strong indication that 2024, whether they like it or not, we are going to win 2024.
Meanwhile, Electoral Commission candidates and political parties have been commended for their conduct in the polls. Still ahead, Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association suspends intended demonstration following assurances the government is working in earnest to pay their 10 months outstanding allowances.
We yesterday submitted a letter to the Ministry of Health suspending our impending demonstration, where we also copied the letter to the Ghana Police Service. What really informed this decision was the fact that the financial clearance has been released some weeks ago by the Ministry of Health.
And later, President Akufo-Addo reiterates government's commitment to restoring the economy as he delivers speech at Eid prayers to mark Eid al-Adha celebrations.
This government has continued to stand by its major policy commitment. We have continued to keep the lights on. We have continued to provide free SHS education.
Well, stay tuned as we bring you details of all that and more on the Citi Prime News, which is also live on all our partner stations across the country. If you're in the Western region, you're listening to us on Premier 100.5 FM and Beach 105.5 FM. All intercradi in the Bono region. You can listen to us on Greener 95.9 FM in Sunyani. In the Ashanti region, we are live on Orange 107.9 FM in Kumasi. In the Eastern region, we are on Right 90.1 FM in Somanya. In the Volta region, we are on Holy 98.5 FM in Aplao. In the Northern region, we are live on Dasuma 99.1 FM in Yindi. In the Upper East, you're listening to us on Word 88.3 FM in Zuarungu. And in the Upper West region, we're on Bugli Radio 88.6 FM in Wa.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Updates you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Grateful for your time this afternoon. We'll settle for the details of our stories. Now we'll begin from the Assin North constituency because supporters of the National Democratic Congress have taken to the streets to jubilate over yesterday's victory. James Jachikwason of the National Democratic Congress, after yesterday's final declaration by the Electoral Commission, polled 17,245, representing 57.56%, while Charles Opoku of the New Patriotic Party obtained 12,630, representing 42.15%. The Liberal Party of Ghana's candidate Sefenu Benis Enyunam garnered 87 votes, representing 0.29%. Supporters of the National Democratic Congress in Assin North have expressed satisfaction with the results, saying James Jachikwason will bring the much-needed development.
It's giving the government, Bawumia Ekufuado government, a very strong indication that 2024, whether they like it or not, we are going to win 2024. We are telling Ekufuado, Bawumia, Oforiata, that what they are doing to Mother Ghana, Assin North, we don't like. So the whole Ghana should look at Assin North, what they have done, and replicate it to 2024. We are going to win. They should bring Bawumia. We want Bawumia, NDC, we want Bawumia. And I'm telling you, we are going to get 99.9% NEC. Bawumia, Massa, we are serious. This victory, we are very happy. You know, as you can see, today we are not going to sleep. We are going to enjoy as they are doing their last rally, they took custom people to Assin North, knowing that they have the people. But we told them that what you are doing is not nice. Let the Assin North people come to your last rally. NDC 2024. Whether they like it or not, we are coming to power.
The law, the Supreme Court cannot choose who should be our representation. So we told them already that NDC, if they wish, they should organize another by-election next month. The margin will be increased. It was 3,000 difference last election, now close to 6,000 this election. They should try us next election, by next 1 or 2 months, that they want to fix. We are going to triple the victory of all NDC in Assin North.
What do you people see in Yachikwesi that made you vote for him?
Yachikwesi is a humble guy. It's a person who wants to lead his people, bring development to the people of Great Assin North. Now, we had MPP who are not doing anything for this constituency. This man came from Canada, and as a premier, he gave the people of Assin North. Gradually, this man is delivering. This man is delivering. For the first time, the whole of Assin North, every community is having bulbs. More than 1,000 bulbs that he donated to the people of Assin North.
This win, is it a message you are sending across to MPP?
My brother, the victory of the NDC is coming again, and the people say, hey, hey, Joe, Boga, 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 the people say, I'm telling you, NDC, we are cooking more than 55% of the vote. I bet you Kamama will be our next president January 2025.
You heard there's some supporters of the NDC in Assin North who were expressing their satisfaction with the victory of James Yachikwesi. Now, supporters of the New Patriotic Party, they are optimistic that their candidate, Charles Opoku, will come back strong in the 2024 elections.
What do you make of yesterday's elections?
Well, from the results, I first congratulate the NDC and Honorable James Yachikwesi for that massive win yesterday. In fact, before the elections, we thought that looking at the grounds, Charles Opoku was going to give him a very big challenge. But the voters from Assin North had already decided. So, at the end of the coalition, when we heard that Honorable James Yachikwesi had won a lot of polling stations in Beku, then we saw that he had already won. So that was it. The delegates still believe that they need, though a little bit disappointed from the point of view of the MPP, but I believe that is what the people want. So we should allow them to jubilate since they did what the people need.
Okay, do you believe with Charles Opoku there will be development in Assin North?
Yes, from the point of view of Charles Opoku and the people who support him, this is a young man who has grown from here and has been able to make impact in the lives of people. The president and the MPP party supporting him would have been a very big boost for the constituency and for the people of Assin North. But since the majority of the people say they believe in Honorable James Yachikwesi, we have to wait and see what happens.
And you think Yachikwesi can also bring a development?
Well, we are looking at him, from that case that he is not part of the ruling government. But we have to wait and see. Yes, maybe he can lobby through other sources to get development. If you can see from our back, the road, that the gutters and the filling has been done. So we are waiting to see if he can lure some people to help us bring the quota on it. There are other projects that are left. We are waiting to see if he can also go and lobby or use his own means to help develop Assin North and Assin Breku.
That was a supporter of the New Patriotic Party in Assin North constituency. We'll go live to Assin North to speak to a central regional correspondent, Calvis Tete, who has been monitoring events since yesterday to tell us more. Calvis, many thanks for your time this afternoon. Now, describe to us, give us a vivid picture of what's happening in Assin North.
Well, supporters of the NDC are in a jubilant mood. They've taken onto the streets, jubilating over yesterday's victory. According to them, James Jachikwesin is their man and he deserves to win. And they believe that James Jachikwesin will bring the much-needed development to Assin North. I spoke to some NDC supporters, and you could see the excitement in their faces. You could see that they are very happy that, despite all that was done to James Jachikwesin, he still emerged victorious in the election. The MPP side is hoping that Charles Opoku will come back strong in the 2024 elections. They are saying that this was an opportunity for Charles to market himself. They believe in the 2024 elections, Charles Opoku will emerge victorious. Well, man.
Now, Charles, before the elections, there were machines on the stretch trying to, try to fix the roads and all. Would you say after the elections, are these machines still there?
Well, earlier yesterday, we saw construction works ongoing just at Assin Breku. But after the declaration this morning, as I'm speaking to you, I can still see the construction work has stopped. There's nothing happening here. We don't know for what reason why construction has stopped, but we are hoping that perhaps it was because of the elections and that it will continue. Earlier yesterday, they were constructing some gutters in the Assin Breku community. But as we speak this afternoon, nothing like that is happening. Perhaps we're just hoping that it is just because of the elections. But if it's not because of the elections, then we don't know why they are still not constructing the roads. We'll still find out more. But we believe, according to the NDC people, they believe even if that construction work is stopped, James Jachikwesin can mobilize and help fix Assin Breku, the district capital, Wilma.
Well, Calvis, before we let you go, have you seen the MPP candidate Charles Opoku? And if you have, what has he been saying?
Well, after the declaration of the results yesterday, Charles Opoku was not even around, including some big wigs of the MPP. Up until now, we have not seen any MPP big wigs around. Charles Opoku himself, we have not seen him in the constituency. I believe they are just sitting down to map up a new strategy ahead of 2024.
Well, Calvis, many thanks for your time. That was our Central Regional Correspondent, Calvis Tete, giving us a report of what's happening in the Assin North constituency this afternoon following yesterday's victory of James Jachikwesin. We'll move away. Meanwhile, still staying with the elections, the Electoral Commission, candidates and political parties have been commended for their conduct in the by-elections. The following report highlights events from the close of polls to the declaration of James Jachikwesin as MP-elect.
The by-election in Assin North was expected to be more competitive than what was recorded in Kumawu, even though the power balance in Parliament was a major consideration in the lead-up to the polls. The focus appeared to be on whether the constituents will use it as a reaction to the many legal battles instituted against James Jachikwesin. The competitive nature of the election was evident in how the Assin North constituency was literally taken over by political actors who matter in the country. Days to the polls, President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, former President John Dramani Mahama, national executives and regional ones of the main political parties were present in the constituency, actively campaigning for their respective candidates. Up until close of voting, it appeared the race was a dead heat one as the two main contenders, James Jachikwesin and Charles Opoku, toured various centers in confidence. However, the lines were drawn moments after the polls and results from the polling stations began trickling in. It became clear that James Jachikwesin had maintained his dominance over the constituency, just as he did in 2020. It was all joy at most polling stations as the NDC members jubilated at the trend of winning various polling stations. The coalition centre was full of NDC sympathisers with MPP persons visibly absent, which the NDC deemed as an indication of the admission of defeat. Member of Parliament for Boom, Kofi Adams, who was in the constituency to support the party's candidate, explained what the victory meant to the NDC.
The figures is an indication because we have done so well in polling stations that I would say we used not to do well. Even when we won this constituency, both presidential and parliamentary, in 2012, we did not perform as good as we did this time around. And you know, in 2016, we lost both presidential and parliamentary. In 2020 December, we won parliamentary and lost presidential to the New Patriotic Party. This time round, we have done so well. Our votes reduced this by-election by less than 200, whilst MPP lost more than 2,000 votes as compared to what they got in the year 2020 December. So it should tell you something, that there's a trend, and I'm happy for the trend, and I'm happy that our strategy we adopted has worked for us. We just need to correct it, check a few things, and see how we can adapt it and push it to the national level and prosecute our 2024 campaign, adapting some of those strategies.
The election was observed by the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers. It was described generally as an improvement compared to previous election. However, issues of vote buying, firing of gunshots, and alleged intimidation were some of the mishaps identified. But the national coordinator of CODEO, Albert Kofi Ahin, in an interview with City News, praised the Electoral Commission for a good job done and urged the EC to work towards perfecting their processes.
It has been a very successful election. We CODEO sometimes operate by looking at the setup of the whole process. That is how the Commission starts the election process. Then we look at the voting. And then, thirdly, we look at the counting and the declaration of results. With regards to the setup, we look out for how the polling station layout is, the comportment of the people or the staff who are going to conduct the election, and these were all done excellently. So my prayer is that with this success that we have chalked, we're going to make sure, or they are going to make sure that in the 2024 elections, things are going to work smoothly like we saw today. When it comes to the comportment of the people, the voters, it was excellent. We had a few skirmishes here and there, and that is normal with every election. So generally, I would say that we had a good election, and my prayer is that this will be replicated in future.
The EC at about 10 p.m. on Tuesday declared the results in favour of James Jachikweisen.
30,418. For candidate number 1, he secured a percentage of 42.15%. Candidate number 2 secured 0.29%. Candidate number 3 had 57.5%.
Elated James Jachikweisen could not hide his joy as he expressed appreciation to the people of Assin North.
I haven't swayed at all. I'm still going to be pursuing the same agenda because that's the mandate that Assin North people have given me. Now, this is a victory not just for myself, it's for the people of Assin North, and in fact for the country Ghana. Hopefully one day we'll pursue a good direction of justice. and also to realize that politics is not about sharing money to citizens and get a vote. It's about development. Democracy itself is about development. And we're going to set this trend along to make sure that people who are represented get a fair share of the national cake and how to develop their communities.
The Member of Parliament-elect, however, took a jab at President Akufo-Addo for some comments he made during the campaigning period.
He's free to express his own opinion, as he said. I didn't hear it myself. I was told, and you have just re-emphasized on that. But again, I was a bit disappointed to hear that. And I know he's a lawyer, and the fundamental belief or value of legal system, you're innocent until proven guilty. So for him to say that, I think it's not a qualified statement. But again, the good people of Assin North demonstrated that they have conscience and they believe in me. And I mean, human conscience supersedes every justice system, right? So let's live with that. And I'm not here to play games. I came for purpose. I have a vision that I came with, and the people of Assin North believe in my vision that I expressed to them.
I cannot wait to go, but I've got to stay.
That was a news desk report on a wrap of events of the Assin North by-elections. We'll go over the phone lines to speak to my colleague Hansen Ajman, who has also been following keenly events of the Assin North by-elections and what it means for both parties. Hansen, many thanks for your time this afternoon. Now, how different are the results of the Assin North from previous elections?
Well, the first takeaway is that the NDC in Assin North has actually in a way, when it comes to percentage points, increase its performance as far as elections in Assin North is concerned. And so we compare this first directly to the 2020 election, where James Jachikwesin got 55.2% of the total vote cast. However, in this by-election, they had 57.56%. So that's some 2 percentage increment there for the NDC as far as you're comparing it when it comes to percentage. Now, if you look at the NPP seems to also have lost when it comes to percentage-wise, because in the 2020 election, Abna Drua Mensah, who at the time was the incumbent MP, got 44.8%. However, Charles Opoku had 42.15%. And so while the NDC gained 2%, while the NDC gained 2%, the NPP lost 2%. Now, you compare it to the figures themselves, and the NDC's James Jachikwesin that actually lost about some 200 votes if you compare the 2020 election to this by-election. So in 2020, he gained 17,498 votes. But in this particular election, he gained 17,245 votes. So with respect to the raw votes, if I can put it that way, the NDC lost a little about 200 votes. Now, when it comes to the NPP in 2020 had 14,193 votes. But in this by-election in 2023, their candidate lost about 2,000 votes, which is 12,000. He garnered 12,630 votes. And so that is the first observation that you look at it from as far as comparing the figures is concerned. Again, the result is not an outright difference from the trend in Assin North from 2012. Now, from 2012, since Assin Central was carved out of the Assin North constituency, what we've realized is that the people of Assin North vote massively always for the person they agree with. And so once they agree with you in 2012, when they agreed with the NDC, they massively voted for the NDC. In 2016, they massively voted for the NPP. And in 2020, massively voted for the NDC as well. And then in this by-election, they've also massively voted for the NDC's candidate, James Jachikwason. So these are the observations in looking at the comparing the results as far as this by-election is concerned to the results of previous elections.
Now, Hansen, prior to the polls, this particular poll, there were polls that suggested that it was going to be a dead heat race. What can you say about that?
Well, we remember one particular poll by Global Info Analytics. Now, this poll by Global Info Analytics actually asked the residents of Assin North who they were going to vote for. That was on Sunday, June 25. Now, Charles Opoku, according to this poll, was taking the lead, and James Jachikwason was trailing behind Charles Opoku, 45.6%, while Charles Opoku had 46.7%. So that was some 1.1% difference. However, when you look at the figures as brought out by Global Info Analytics and the trend that they had done, indicating that since June 6th, when they first did the poll and Charles Opoku was in the lead, his votes continued to dwindle. And the fact that they said for every single day, Charles Opoku was losing 1.1% of his votes, which basically James Jachikwason was winning. If you factor all these into consideration, then the poll was not far from right, with if you make further analysis on what the persons have said. Because on the face value of the poll, you would say it's a dead heat. But the poll also said some 6.9% were undecided. And so that 6.9% were up for grabs. Again, the poll indicated that there was a margin of error of about 1.9%. Now, what margin of error of 1.9% means that one person may gain 1.9% of the votes, or another person may lose 1.9% of the votes. Now, if you put this 1.9% of the votes and you add it to the 6.9% of the votes, and you deduct this from the about 4% that Charles Opoku lost as far as the poll is concerned, because he got about 42%. And according to the poll, he got 46.7%. If you put all this together and you add it to that of James Jachikwason, then he is getting close to the 57% that the actual results came out with. And so even though the polls or this particular poll going into the election indicated that it was going to go to a dead heat, considering other figures and other responses of the people who were polled as far as this survey is concerned, you can come to a conclusion that the survey was not far from right and gave a close, accurate impression of what one was supposed to expect on the day of the election.
Hansen, now James Jachikwason is MP elect. What should we expect when the House resumes on Thursday?
Well, the Constitution of Ghana is very clear that as a member of Parliament, when elected, before you take the office, you're supposed to ascribe to the oath of Parliament, which will be administered before the Speaker and in the presence of the members of Parliament. Now, you take the oath of allegiance and the oath of a member of Parliament. And so, on Thursday, perhaps, and part of the activities of the House on Thursday James Jachikwesin may be called to take his oath as a member of parliament. And after that, he can, in official capacity, now continue to undertake his role rightly as a member of parliament for Assin North.
And so before we let you go, we want to know a bit about his criminal case in court now.
Well, we remember prior to the Assin North by-election, there were issues about whether or not the trial should be on day-to-day basis. He was excused by the court to come for his election. However, last week Friday, the court ruled that it has a discretion and it did not err in law when it ruled that there should be day-to-day hearing of the case. Now, the case has been adjourned to June 29, coincidentally on Thursday, which Parliament is expected to resume. And so on Thursday, the expectation is that Judge Jachikwesin would be in court where the case will be heard. And also a subsequent adjournment date has been given for July 4 from there when there will be day-to-day hearing of the case. Now, what we should be expecting as perhaps a legal strategy from James Jachikwesin's legal team is whether or not they will be raising this matter again, since now he rightfully again will be the member of parliament for Assin North, and perhaps will be making a case that he will need some time to be performing his role as a member of parliament. And so the case will continue on June 29 on Thursday. July 24, the court is expected to now begin the day-to-day hearing of the matter. What is expected now is how the legal team will react again, considering the landslide victory he has received from his people in Assin North.
Thank you so much for that update. That was my colleague Hansen Ajiman there.
Meanwhile, the executive director of the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs, Dr. Rashid Rahman, says the circumstances surrounding James Jachikwesin's trial may have helped him with his victory.
I think we saw the people standing very firmly with the honorable member. So for me, perhaps it sends a message to our legal authorities. I mean, I know we have to uphold the constitution. We have to uphold the law. But the lawyers will say sometimes in the application of the law, there is some element of common sense that is called jurisprudence. So I don't know whether the outcome is going to affect the legal processes, but the people have spoken, and I think that must not be discounted.
Okay. Doc, in your estimation, do you think that Mr. Kwesin being dragged to court, or the issues surrounding that court case, him being asked to appear in court on a daily basis, all of these rather play to his advantage because he may have gotten some sympathy votes?
Yes, there are many who say he got some sympathy votes, and perhaps that might be true, particularly because of the way the case was handled. I mean, many people were surprised to hear that on this case, the courts were ready to dispense justice on time, while I believe there are so many cases that have been pending before the courts. I mean, cases that drag for many, many years. So perhaps that might have played to his advantage. I mean, I don't know, but I guess just like what we have seen over the years in death, when MPs die and then put their spouses, I mean, we have seen that a couple of times. Okay. They end up maybe getting sympathies extended to them by the electorate for those spouses to replace their husbands. Maybe in this particular case, the humiliation that he received before the court, I mean, in the thick of campaigning, the thick of doing a national duty, I mean, he was asked to show up in court. Maybe rather than that affecting his political capital, that has perhaps rather played to his advantage.
Does money really buy votes?
Yeah, I think that is what they still believe. I mean, and I think on this occasion, we have to be fair and say, I mean, this is not only the ruling party. Because I read some voters, I think if what they said is anything to go by, saying we took money from both sides. And but again, I think at the end of the day, voters are becoming sophisticated these days in our country. They know that development is going to come with a lot of haste when there's by-election. A lot of money is going to flow. But I guess even in the stronghold in Kumewu, what we saw, I think there was a very good show by the opposition. So the message, I think, is clear that, rather than going to share money when it's time for elections, I think the parties, that is both parties, should rather focus on making sure that there is equity in wealth distribution, there's equity in development, so that their records can speak for them.
Dr. Rashid Draman is the Executive Director for the Africa Center for Parliamentary Affairs.
We'll stay a little while longer on the Assin North by-elections, but this time we're speaking with the NDC, and we have over the phone lines the Deputy Secretary of the party, Mustafa Bandi, to tell us more. Good afternoon, sir. Many thanks for your time. Now, what does this victory mean for the NDC, considering the allegations of the state using legal processes to frustrate your candidate?
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to our cherished listeners. For us in the NDC, this is a test case that in the history of this country, it's not easy for a sitting government to do a by-election, let alone a by-election in a constituency that is swing in nature. A by-election where the original difference between the two major political parties is not up to 4,000. Clearly what it means is that the people have said to Nanado and his government, enough of corruption, enough of rude and obsolete methods of governance, enough of persecution. The people of Assin North forms a minute of what Ghanaians what view Ghanaians represent. And what view Ghanaians represent in this election is that Ghanaians are hungry. A hungry man is an angry man. They have placed anger, they have placed standard of living over gimmicks and vote buying projects. They have realized that over the time, politicians have taken the voters for granted. And so this time around, they have given Nanado a shock of his life. What is more worrying is the statements of His Excellency the President about these particular election. For me, it's quite unfortunate, it's quite preposterous, it's quite unprecedented that the sitting president, who is the head of the executive arm of government, can come so low to the extent that he politicizes the matter before the court on a political platform, that he makes prejudicial, compromising commentaries about a case that is in court, knowing very well his overwhelming power as the executive president of this country. For me, that is how low Nana Akufo-Addo have degenerated our democratic game. And that is a major concern for us at the NDC coming out of this election, that you have a president who takes delight in trying to compromise the already suspected, independence, supposed independence of the judiciary with the executive. Ghanaians feel that they don't get justice in our court. Ghanaians feel that this president has been doing everything possible to compromise the judiciary. And he has vindicated Ghanaians. Can we have a country where the arbiter, the institution that guarantees human rights, the only institution that can decipher wrongs from rights, is being compromised or is being seen to have been compromised by the executive president? I think that is a worry. I think the Ghanaians are worried about it. We in the NDC are worried. Again, for us in the NDC, it puts a bigger responsibility on us. Clearly, government has failed. Government has failed to discuss bread and butter issues. Government has failed to discuss standard of living issues. And so for us in the NDC, Ghanaians are saying, we want you. You are a waiting government. And so we have to come out with policies that will complement to give Ghanaians a hope into the future that when the NDC comes to power, we will restore and bring down the hardship that Ghanaians are going through being inflicted on them deliberately by this government. This is a government that is complaining that there is no money, but suddenly can harness state resources into a by-election vote buying project. The people of Assin North have rejected same. They have rejected political persecution. They have rejected injustice. And for us, that is how the people of Ghana want our democracy to be.
Well, thank you so much, sir. You were listening to the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Mustapha Bandi, who was speaking on the victory of James Gyakye Kwesi in the Assin North by-elections. You're still listening to the Citi Prime News live from our studios at Adabraka in Accra. Still ahead in the bulletin, President Akufo-Addo, he's reiterated government's commitment to restoring the economy as he delivers speech at Eid prayers to mark Eid al-Adha celebrations. We'll bring you details of this story and others shortly. Do stay with us.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
Using a condom will protect you and your partner from HIV, STIs, and unplanned pregnancy. Condoms are an effective way for protection against HIV infection. Don't take risks. Use a condom every time. Always come prepared.
This advert is brought to you by the Ghana AIDS Commission and Ghana Health Service.
Happy birthday to you. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust.
Throughout all life-changing moments such as graduations, weddings, funerals, birthdays, ATL is there to ensure you're never out of style. When you think fabric, think ATL. Log on to atlfabrics.com. Order and buy your favorite ATL fabric. You can also visit our shop at number 40 Kwame Nkrumah Avenue, opposite the Swansea Shopping Arcade at Accra Central. Also available in leading fabric dealer shops in Accra, Kumasi, and Cape Coast. ATL, bringing fabric to life.
The Voice Factory Season 5 airs live. Don't miss the repeats of the live performances of The Voice Factory Season 5 on 97.3 Citi FM. On Sundays at 12:30 p.m, on Mondays at 8 p.m, and on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Get all the excitement from the live shows of The Voice Factory Season 5 only on 97.3 Citi FM.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connect you to the newsmakers.
You're welcome back. Now, President Akufo-Addo has reiterated his government's willingness and commitment to working to bounce back the economic gains of the country. Ghana's economic fortunes have taken a nosedive in recent times, with government seeking a $3 billion IMF bailout package. Inflation rates have been high, with the cedi losing its value against other major currencies, despite attributions of the situation by government to the COVID-19 pandemic and the Russia-Ukraine war. Many stakeholders have called for drastic measures to be taken to change the narrative. Speaking at the Eid prayers held at the Independence Square to mark the celebration of Eid al-Adha, President Akufo-Addo gave assurances of his government working assiduously to bring the economy back on track.
I'll be remiss if I did not talk about the economic circumstances that set our country in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, whose effects have been exacerbated by the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Even so, this government has continued to stand by its major policy commitments. They've continued to keep the lights on. They've continued to provide free SHS education. We have continued to ensure drone delivery of critical medicines to needy and remote communities. We have continued to keep the operation of the Zongo Development Fund. We've continued to build new roads and repair old ones. We've continued with our one district, one factory policy and the program for planting for food and jobs. It is this attitude and commitment by government that have enabled our nation to obtain an IMF program in record time. We're beginning to navigate the turbulence, with our economy growing by 4.2% in the first quarter of 2023. The currency has seen some stability lately, and through the Gold for Oil program, we've seen stability in the prices of petroleum products as well, all of which are helping to bring inflation down. Things are getting better, and will get better, I can assure you. In the spirit of Eid, I ask you to continue to support the government, your government, to deliver the needed progress and prosperity that we all see.
Still speaking at the Eid prayers, President Akufo-Addo says his government has shown its commitment in incorporating Muslims into the state of affairs and their significance to the country's development.
Let me reiterate my commitment, not just to the Muslim population of Ghana, but to all religious communities, both majority and minority. The Constitution of our country gives every citizen the right to manifest the religion of their choice. And as long as I remain president, I commit to afford every religious tradition the opportunity to practice their faith within the bounds of the law. Jama'ah, fellow Ghanaians, under two governments of the new patriotic party in the Fourth Republic, this country has produced Muslim vice presidents. It should thus be clear to Muslim parents that there is value in educating their children. Our nation affords your children the opportunity to rise to their highest possible calling. I therefore encourage you to take advantage of our progressive policies in the education sector to educate your children, both male and female. Today, Ghana's ambassador to the United States of America is a Muslim woman, as is the Minister for Gender, Children, and Social Protection. So there is value in educating the Muslim girl as well.
You heard the President Akufo-Addo, and he's been speaking at the Eid prayers held at the Independence Square to mark the celebrations of Eid al-Adha today. Meanwhile, former President and NDC flag bearer John Dramani Mahama, he has admonished Muslims across the country to use this occasion to reflect on the importance of the sacrifice by Prophet Ibrahim to the faith and devotion of Allah. Here are excerpts of John Mahama's message.
May this Eid bring you and your loved ones joy, peace, and blessings. Take a moment to reflect yet again on this special occasion's importance. It is a time to remember the sacrifice that Prophet Ibrahim was willing to make to demonstrate his faith and devotion to Allah. During this holy month of Ramadan, we have all worked hard to deepen our connection with Allah through prayer, fasting, and acts of kindness. As we come together to celebrate Eid al-Adha, let us continue to embody these values and honor the spirit of sacrifice passed down to us from our ancestors. Eid Mubarak.
You heard the excerpts of John Mahama's message to the Muslim community on Eid celebrations, read by Ino Safo.
Still on the Eid celebrations, Muslim youth have been urged to eschew violence, retaliation, and all acts that do not promote peace in the country. Now, speaking at the Kumasi Central Mosque as part of activities to mark the Eid al-Adha celebration, the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei Mensah entreated the youth to ensure peaceful coexistence and work together with all persons.
Islam means peace and submission to the will of Allah. Let us on this day make peace with ourselves and our fellow human beings. I therefore encourage the Muslim youth to embrace the values of peace, education, and social responsibility. You are the future leaders of our society, and it is through your dedication and commitment that we can build a prosperous and a harmonious country for the generations to come. While we commemorate the greatness and glory of this day, let us take the opportunity to once again resubmit our ways to Allah and fulfill our rules as expected of us as Muslims, to be able to enjoy Allah's blessings. We must eschew retaliation, violence, indiscipline, and other undesirable attitudes that hinder our growth and development. Occasions like this present Muslims and indeed all Ghanaians the opportunity to reflect and rededicate our lives to the ways of our Maker and the cause of nation building. Nation building requires the participation of all stakeholders, and therefore we must work together and remain focused.
Simon Osei-Mensah is the Ashanti Regional Minister. On his part, the Executive Secretary of the Ashanti Regional Chief Imam, who is also the Chairman of the Eid Planning Committee in the region, Utaz Ahmed Seidu, in an interview with Citi News, reiterated the call for Muslim youth to focus on education and eschew violence.
Not by slaughtering ourselves, rather, but we have to sacrifice to let Allah know that, yeah, we are His servants and we need some blessings from this day. So it's a day that we should all respect. We should give reverence to the day, to that particular day. That is the 10th of Zulhijjah. That is the last month of the lunar calendar. Today is the 10th day, and therefore, it's a day set by Muslims to observe this celebration. So upon all this, Muslims all over the world, not necessarily only Muslims, but the whole world, especially the youth. Usually we talk about the youth, every day we talk about, because they are the future of every country. The youth, is the future of every country. So we have to, give them due attention, so that through that we'll see them tomorrow. They will be the leaders of a particular country, especially our mother Ghana. So they have to be circumspect. They have to train themselves, even though the elderly are doing their best. But they should know that the mantle of future is in their hands. So therefore, they have to take education seriously. Because without education, no nation can prosper. So the youth must take education as a priority. And they should, no matter how, they should go as far as they can, to the level that they can. So that through education, they will be able to serve and then help to give their service, render their services to their country, their mother country.
Executive Secretary to the Ashanti Regional Chief Imam Utaz Ahmed Seidu speaking.
Away from the Eid celebrations, members of the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association, they have suspended their planned demonstration intended to pressurize government to pay their 10 months outstanding allowance. According to them, the decision to put the demonstration on hold comes after indications that the Ministry of Health was working tirelessly to secure their financial clearance. Speaking to Citi News, National President of the Rotational Nurses and Midwives Association, Jasper Joka, quickly indicated that the group would be forced to reconsider the demonstration if their allowances are not paid by the end of July.
So we yesterday submitted a letter to the Ministry of Health suspending the demonstration, our impending demonstration as well. We also copied a letter to the Ghana Police Service. What really informed this decision was the fact that the financial clearance has been released some weeks ago by the Ministry of Health. And so the financial clearance that came had some requirements. Our payment processes does not end it there, or is not only the responsibility of the ministry alone. When the financial clearance comes, we as individuals or interns also have a role to play. All right. And so this time around, the requirement that the ministry has come up with, that we provide before our payment is being done, has placed a lot of our members in distress, where some who are not in the regions where they trained have to travel back to the various regions where they trained for some documents before they can be able to, complete. We don't want to stress the membership very much, and I want to give them the space to get their details and then submit the IVPD forms accordingly. However, we are giving the ministry some few time to gather all this information. You know, as I speak, we have gathered some information that some facilities across the country have started filling the forms, and some are already done with the forms. And so we are expecting that by the ending of this month, we should be hearing some people receiving alert in their bank accounts. We have not cancelled the demonstration. We only placed it on suspension. It means that in the near future, or in the near week, or maybe few weeks to come, or few months to come, we might be forced to revisit our decision if our payment is not done. Because this is where we are today, working for 12 months before talking about payment. It is so sad. We shouldn't be here. Our membership are not happy, even with this suspension. But we have to do it and then give the ministry some time to collate the information, our data, generate our staff IDs for us, and then get our money paid accordingly. It is so sad. We are not happy as we speak. Most of us are finishing the rotation this Friday. Most of us are finishing, and here we are. There's no money in the country, but here we are today working for 12 months without a penny. And so we have not cancelled the demonstration. We only placed on suspension. And that is, we are only giving the minister some space to take the information needed. And also our members to also get their requirement, because as we speak, many people are traveling from Northern region to Accra for certificates, transcripts, to go back to their regions where they are doing the rotation and then fill the IBPD forms. In the absence of this, you will not be paid. And so we are giving the minister some time that if by next month we don't receive payment or we don't start receiving our payment, then we might be forced to revisit our decision.
Now, 6 more members of the Western Togoland Restoration Front have been handed jail sentences in hard labor for some offences committed during the group's attack on police stations in Mepe and Aveime, the release of suspects on remand, stealing of police ammunition, and blockage of Japon and Sugakope roads. 5 of them were convicted in March this year and handed the maximum sentence of 5 years each for their involvement in the activities and being members of the separatist group. But in a separate trial, 6 others have been given varying punishments for their involvement in those same activities. Lawyer for the accused persons prayed to the court to consider the fact that the accused have been in custody for the entire duration of the trial and have shown remorse for their actions and not impose a custodial sentence. Prosecution, however, opposed this, arguing that the actions were inimical to the peace of the country and asked for a deterrent sanction. Now, the court agreed with prosecution and decided to hand a deterrent sentence to the accused persons.
Now, away from that,
we do more stories, and 2 persons have died on the Accra-Kumasi highway. The crash involved the OA minibus that ran into a pothole at Dapija Junction on Tuesday afternoon. According to eyewitnesses, after hitting the pothole, the car somersaulted, killing 2 people instantly. Several other people were injured and are receiving treatment. Now, the police and emergency services were on the scene to salvage the situation.
Well, that's all time would allow us for on today's edition of the Citi Prime News, which has been live from our studios at Adabraka in Accra. For more news, you can log on to our website, citynewsroom.com. I am Wilma Ububisa Coleman, and this afternoon I was here with
Kweku Ediamansa.
Many thanks for doing the listening. Up next is the afternoon's edition of the Citi Business News.